There we go. We are live. Good morning, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. I'm Revel and Ho Shorty. Apologies for the delay. A bunch of our delivery didn't arrive until yesterday, and then because it's New Comic Book Day and it arrived very close to lunchtime, I was very busy, didn't get a chance to do anything. But there is some new stuff to review, including Savage Avengers. And yes, it's not the first Savage Avengers. There have been other Savage Avengers in the past. This is a relaunch following on from the original, from what I can gather. But it kind of also exists in a world where we're no longer going to have Conan as part of the Marvel universe. It's basically an odd little thing to do with who owns the rights for it, and in different countries, copyright law works differently, and who can use characters once they're into public domain. Very different things going on. I mean, it shouldn't be the most complicated thing in the world, because already, I think, Ablaze have got a Conan comic book's been running for a while now called Sumerian, so you can still keep the character in there. But we have other characters as well. Quite a few of them. He says, checking the cover to remind himself because he forgot to take notes. Weapon H, Cloak and Dagger, Anti-Venom, Black Knight, Daredevil, and Deathlock also hanging out with Conan here. But weirdly, they're not all part of the same team, as it were. This, I think, kind of starts with the idea that Deathlock is hunting down Conan for crimes against time, which apparently is what Deathlock does. I must admit, I've not really read many Deathlock comic books. I don't really know who the guy is, what he does, but the fact that he's going after Conan for crimes against time makes perfect sense with what I know about the Savage Avengers and the Conan stories at the moment. So at least his internal consistency, even if it's weird. And we're going to talk about a lot of things that I like about this and some things I don't. We're going to start with the artwork. I actually quite like a lot of the artwork in this. I think it adds to the story. It's done in service of the story, which is like a bare minimum, I know, but it also looks interesting at times. There's some quite cool little character designs, some quite over the top done things with specifically Cloak and Shadow, or Cloak and Dagger, should I say, which look absolutely brilliant. There's really nice bits of fight scenes and post-fight scenes, but there's also, and I can't stress this enough, that tiny little hand. Like, what on earth was that choice there? I don't mind the gun of Liefeldian proportions. That makes perfect sense to me. That looks exactly what I expect to do with this kind of sequence going on right now. Adds to the story and everything. Tiny little hand, though. Don't know what's going on, but tiny little hand. And the moment I noticed that one, I was kind of always looking for silly little things as well. Thankfully, the artwork is good enough that it stopped me paying attention to that kind of thing. So overall, artwork is good. A few things about it which maybe need some work. Writing now, we're going to talk about mainly the thing I generally detest about team stories, which is let's get the team together stories. Thankfully, the creator or the writer of this one, Pepose, I'm afraid I don't know how to pronounce that name, doesn't really worry about that too much. He kind of has just reasons for everyone to be in the same place, but then pretty much the entire story, the entire first issue, is leading to the last couple of pages. It kind of doesn't matter what the heroes were doing and why they were in roughly the same location. It turns out that various people fighting various types of crime, and some of them are weirdly connected in ways that don't need to make sense. It turns out that Conan is just fighting a bunch of snake god cultists, because that's what he does. It's Conan. It's his hobby. And it turns out they've got a mad bomb or something along those lines, which the Avengers would have had that kind of tech level for. And it turns out some of the other people are looking for it, specifically Daredevil and Anti-Venom. But then Weapon H just gets mugged while Black Knight is in a bar looking all miserable, and he goes to try and save him. But then the mad bomb goes off and it kind of leads them to where they need to go. And it's Cloak and Dagger are having about to have this really intense heart-to-heart kind of situation. And as all this is going on, Deathlock has arrived to punish Conan for crimes against time while he's dealing with the snake cult people. So all of that seems very contrived. But in a way, it doesn't matter. They're just having fun with it. And I've got to admit, that is my biggest selling point on this one. Sometimes the dialogue is cliched and hammy. Sometimes the story feels like it doesn't make sense, but in a way that doesn't really matter, that doesn't make sense, because it's just fun. They've just grabbed hold of this idea of let's have 6 or 7 random people, superheroes or anti-heroes who wouldn't usually work together, and find a way to thrust them into an absolutely bizarre situation. And I imagine at least some of the pitch for this comic book would have gone, and hilarity or craziness will ensue. Like, I don't think they even needed to really properly hammer out this story. As someone who's run role-playing games for disparate characters who come together, and I put them in a situation and then just enjoyed what's happened as a result of these people being in this situation, I can't help but feel that there's a little something of that in this comic book. And I can't complain about that. yeah, it's not the deepest thing in the world. Doesn't appear to be much in the way of nuance or any kind of like hidden meaning to this story. It is just a bunch of heroes and anti-heroes who happen to be thrust through time, and it's all going to get weird now they're in the Hyborian age. That's about it. And if that's what you want, you're going to really enjoy what this comic book is doing. That's it for me today, though. I'll be back tomorrow. Until then, look after each other, everyone. Stay safe. Bye.